It's just 9 days. 9 days away, right?
Unreal.
What is it? 9? Is it Nick Foles days? Is he number 9? 9 Nick Foles days away.
Nick Foles number 9.
Nick Foles days away from the Kansas City Chiefs, kicking things off against the Houston Texans on Thursday Night Football, and the man who called Nick Foles' Philly special in that Super Bowl in Minnesota a couple of years ago, and now going to call yet another season of Sunday Night Football alongside our good friend Al Michaels is our good friend Cris Collinsworth. How are you, Chris?
What's happening, Rich?
I'm excited. How about you?
Yeah, me too. I think for so long we were all afraid that it just wasn't going to happen, right? You know, you're just kind of sitting there going, this is not really going to happen, and you know the COVID stuff and everything was happening. And by the way, have you had a COVID test yet? Have you had the full?
I've had the full. Yes.
Swabby up the nose, turned sideways, then vertically, then sideways, and vertically again. Have you had that thing yet?
I have, Chris, and I share here on this show, and it's also very important for men of our age to do such a thing. I had the COVID-19 swab all the way up to your brain, colonoscopy, double whammy. So I had that going for me, Chris.
I had that as well this year.
There you go.
You
How
and
about
I
us?
are in parallel universes, brother. I have been poked and prodded more than I ever want to. Not even Bill Belichick ever got me poked and prodded like this before. I want no more part of this stuff.
I hear you.
It's unbelievable, right? I mean, thank God they've got the saliva test now going, so I can't wait to hear some Al stories on the COVID test. This is going to be really good.
Oh my gosh! So are you planning on being at the games? Is that the plan for you and Al to physically be at each Sunday night spot, Chris?
Yeah. I mean, I guess we could do it if we had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It would be hard, you know, because I can't even really explain. I mean, you would understand this. You've called games. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But I mean, my setup kind of looks like I'm flying an airplane, right? I've got you kind of get trained to different things. And if it's a pass play, then I look at this. If it's a run play, I look at this. If it's that, and then how we time out replays and communicate it back to Fred and Drew, and then, you know, kind of listen to what Al's saying, but also trying to talk to Fred. And, you know, how would you do that from, like, your basement? Like I was talking to John Smoltz, and he was saying that he's in his basement calling the game, and his partner's in his basement calling the game, and the producers somewhere else, you know, calling the game. It's just, I don't know how you do it.
Mm-hmm. It's just a fascinating year, and we're going to see how it all plays out with wins and losses very shortly, starting in 9 days from now, Kansas City and Houston. But I you know, normally we do start with the Super Bowl champ, and I do want to talk with you about them in a second. But this is, as we all know, been dominated our world for the last 20 years in the conversation about Brady and Belichick. You and I had a fascinating moment sitting and watching the two of them together on the set of the NFL 100 All-Time Team Show. Interestingly enough, taped out of order. That was the first segment that we recorded, was the two of them on the set.
Yeah.
How do you think they will both fare without each other this year, Chris?
Pretty well. I mean, I really do. You know, Tom Brady is going to have offensive weapons that he didn't have at least last year at his disposal in Tampa. They have three tight ends that can play with anybody, and you know, Godwin and Evans, and I mean, it's going to be exciting to see what he can do in that. And the other part of him that you know, the hard part is this is the first time he's had to learn a new offense, right? And so that's going to be, at the very least, it's going to be a different language. I don't think it'll be new plays. I don't think it'll be something he can't handle. But just, you know, being able to wink and a nod with guys that you've been playing with for 10 years, the Edelmans of the world. Thank goodness he's got Gronkowski back there with him one more time. But I really do feel like that this is going to be a test for Tom, especially early on, especially going against Drew Brees and an offense that has been together now for quite some time. So I'm looking forward to that. I think I'm more looking forward to watching New England play, because New England is, God, they're just such an interesting case study. No matter how you slice it 1,000 different ways, they're just such an interesting case study on how they continue to win. We've seen Belichick win without Brady in the past. I often thought that one time that Brady was suspended for those 4 games, and he started out 3-0, that he was probably as mad losing that 4th game as he was any game he ever coached in his life, even with his third-string quarterback having to play, because, there's a point of pride. I mean, these guys have heard all that noise all those years. Is it Belichick? Is it Brady? And the obvious answer is, of course, it was both of them. And so now, for the first time, we're seeing that split up. And as a fan, just a human being, it's just interesting, isn't it? You can say anything you want. Maybe it's not relevant in your mind. Maybe it's not it. But it makes this football season really interesting. And I love the start of this one.
I agree.
I love the fact that we haven't seen any of these teams play in preseason. We haven't seen any of these rookies or free agents with their current team. It's like the start of college football, and there's just this great unknown. I've never prepared for opening day where I haven't seen an ounce of current tape of that team that's been put together. So I just think in many ways this is the most exciting start to an NFL season that we've ever seen.
I agree, Chris, and you want to talk about interesting, that's why, I mean, certainly with the Cowboys having Mike McCarthy now at the helm, the NFC West is vastly different and also improved. We could talk about Yannick Ngakoue now in the NFC North and what that means with Aaron Rodgers being just an inch shy in the regular season last year, being the 1 seed coming back now. And then you've got the defending Super Bowl champs in the Kansas City Chiefs, along with Big Ben returning from injury. And yet I led with Brady Belichick with you for a reason. And the thing that's really interesting to me is Bruce Arians this week, I don't know if you saw, complaining about how bad the offense looked in practice, said that he thought all 11 guys out there were too busy reading their newspaper clippings, which I don't believe Brady's heard in quite some time, even with Belichick. And on the opposite side, when was the last time you heard Belichick say that this is what he had to say on SiriusXM NFL radio about Cam Newton? Go for it,
He's an extremely hard worker. Nobody works harder than Cam does. He's here early, he stays late, and he works very hard. Some players like to work on things that they're good at, like if you're strong on the bench press and you just keep throwing more weight on the bench. But Cam's the type of player that, works on things that he's not as good at and really tries to improve on a daily basis, and that's something that I really respect about him. Like, that's not easy for players, really any of us, to do. Is look at something that we don't feel like we're very good at, or it's not one of our strengths, and put extra time into it when that's a natural tendency is to do things you're good at.
I mean, I heard that, Chris, and I thought to myself that obviously his relationship with Brady didn't seem to bring it about. But if he had said that once in the last 10 years publicly about Tom, would Tom still be in New England? I literally thought that sort of stuff,
Yeah. I mean, we're going to psychoanalyze that relationship long after both of them are dead. Let's face it, that's a historic moment in time in the National Football League, what those guys were able to do together. But it didn't totally stun me that they went after Cam, because we did the game last year with Lamar Jackson kind of running through those guys. And you remember at the time, I think the Patriots were undefeated. I think they were 8-0. And their defense was setting historic pace for points allowed. And Lamar Jackson went through them like a goose. I mean, it was unbelievable. And it's I was an option quarterback in high school and my first year of college. And when the option play works, it is unstoppable. When it really, really works, because you have to remember, and especially when the quarterback runs the ball. So when you're adding that extra player, so what happens in an ordinary play? The quarterback turns around, hands the ball off to the running back, and he stands and cheers for his guys after that. So it's basically 10 on 11, right? But now when you have a quarterback that can run like Lamar, like Cam, and you have 10 blockers on 11 defenders, the math changes. And now when you also have to have that extra defender in the box to play that run, and now you've got nothing but man coverage working on the outside, the passing game changes. So after watching the success that Cam had in the past against the Patriots, and after watching Lamar last year against his record-breaking defense, it really didn't surprise me that maybe that's somewhere in the back of his mind, because, you know, the whole thing with Tim Tebow and all of that as well, did he know as a defensive-minded coach that if they really got that right and they really learned how to play that style with the sort of precision that the Patriots do everything, you know, could they then create this unstoppable offense that was the complete antithesis of what they had with Tom Brady? I mean, to me, all that stuff is just so darn interesting, and I can't wait to watch it. I think we get them the second week of the season.
Cris Collinsworth here on the Rich Eisen Show from Sunday Night Football. You got Kansas City right in front of you against Houston. What a heck of an opener coming up in a couple of Thursdays. I want to throw something at you that's not X's and O's, and this might be overthinking it because we've had nothing but time to think. But the concept of a Super Bowl hangover usually means players and coaches are feted wherever they go for weeks and months, and they get, I guess, complacent. Or there's been just so much going on that when they get back to work that it feels like a grind. But this year there hasn't been any of that because of COVID. I'm wondering if you put that in the hopper. Plus, Patrick Mahomes is young and just dynamic and paid, and all the other guys are paid and happy. And Andy Reid wants to go back to back, probably worse than anybody else, to just keep this thing going. That the Chiefs are favorites just for this alone. What do you think?
I think they're favorites for the most part because they didn't have great change. You know, that as you look at the beginning of this football season, and I think we all have to anticipate the possibility anyway that we don't make it all the way through 16 games. I mean, right, anything is possible
right.
In this football season. So it looks like we're going to get to the beginning of the year, short of, you know, we don't know with the social justice movement, you know, could there be some sort of stoppage there? And, you know, I just don't know about all that kind of stuff. But I think when you take what they have on the offensive side and the continuity that they have there, and then you look at what the defense was able to do under Steve Spagnuolo in the last 6-7 games of the season on into the playoffs, I mean, they were one of the best defenses in football. You want to go back to the Super Bowl. The reason they won the Super Bowl was because their defense was able to make those fourth-quarter stands and really hold down a very dynamic offensive football team when everything was on the line. I mean, for Patrick Mahomes, honestly, for 3 quarters, that may have been one of the worst games that I've ever seen him play. And then in the fourth quarter, when it was all on the line, of course, he did what the greatest of the great players do. So I think the continuity is going to give this team some advantages going into this season. So, yeah, a worthy favorite. I'll tell you a team, though, that I would keep an eye on this year, that not many people are talking about. I think almost everybody is going Kansas City, Baltimore as far as the 2 favorites, and that makes the most sense, right? Baltimore had the best record, and Kansas City's the world champs. But Pittsburgh. You look at what Pittsburgh did defensively last year. That team damn near made the playoffs with people off the street named Duck playing quarterback last year. And when you think about what they did defensively, I mean, they hunkered down defensively. They were something else defensively. And I don't know that much about Tommy John surgery, but I've heard that there are some people that can't wait to have Tommy John surgery if they're a pitcher because they come back stronger than what they left. And everything I've been reading about Ben is that it seems like he's throwing the ball as well, if not better than ever, because his arm for the first time in years and years and years isn't hurting him. So if you take if that defense stays solid, and there's no reason to think that they won't, and Ben returns on the offensive side, I mean, the North is going to be a heck of a fist fight for this football season.
I love it. Cris Collinsworth here on the Rich Eisen Show. Before I let you go, the best team in the NFC coming into 2020 is?
I really fell in love with San Francisco last year, and I picked them to win the Super Bowl. And I was so smug sitting up in the stands, just feeling like I swear, Rich, I was like, I told everybody this is what was going to happen. They were going to, it's just one of those, I didn't really say it out loud. I just was kind of sitting there going, you are such a genius. And then it just all went so south. So I'm still a big fan of the 49ers. I don't like some of the injuries that they've had. And I'm scared to death to even say this, but the Dallas Cowboys, at least on the offensive side, to me, feel like they are just loaded up. I love CeeDee Lamb coming out of the draft. I just really did. And Amari Cooper is one of the best one-on-one route runners. Gallup's a really nice player. Elliott's, we know what he's going to be. And Pollard is a guy that I think will be a much bigger factor this year in the backup role, maybe as a receiver. Coming out, a little bit of it depends on how well they do without Travis Frederick there at the center position. But I just feel like that this is a team that really does have a chance. Now, how long does it take? They're the flip side of what we talked about with some of these other teams getting off to a hot start. I don't think they'll get off to a great start because they're a new team, new coach, new coordinator on the defensive side with Mike Nolan. So I think it might take a little while. But I see no reason that the Cowboys can't be really tough come the end of it.
Wow. You went Dallas, and I love the caveat. I hate to say it.
Because everybody in the world either loves or hates Dallas, but I look at them. I love teams built around their quarterback and their receivers, and you just get the feeling that Dak's gotten a little bit of money now, and yet he still didn't get the contract, so he's got a little bit of that chip on his shoulder. And, man, I watched every pass this guy threw this past season, and I'm just going, man, he's a lot better than people give him credit for, and he's that right blend. He can run that read option well enough. He's not going to, he can escape the sacks. If they get the only thing I worry about is the offensive line. Are they anywhere close at center and left guard to what they used to be, and will they get the production out of the tight end position? Will Blake Jarwin take that next step on that? But and hopefully they hold up at the cornerback position. Those are the things you got to worry about with the Cowboys. But man, they got Leighton Vander Esch, Jalen Smith are two hot shot.
And also
linebackers. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence. You just got to go. Everson Griffin. I mean, it's got it all. I mean, there's no reason.
And they also have
no reason for them not to.
I know, and they also have maybe one of the most fascinating players of 2020, Aldon Smith, who was such a beast rushing the passer, who has had so much trouble staying sober. He's back, and if he is Aldon Smith of the days of the Niners, look out.
He averaged almost a sack a game in his first 3 years, something like that.
Yes.
He was unblockable. So who knows? I honestly, I cannot wait to get this thing started. I just can't wait. I'm getting ready for 4 different teams, and I've basically forgotten about the rest of the league, so I get lost in my own little world this time of year. But I can't remember a time that I felt this amped up about the beginning of a season. And I know there's a million things to be worried about in this world in 2020, which is the worst year in the history of my lifetime anyway. And there's so many different things that we need to solve as a society, and I get all that. But I also get that as depressing as the first half has been, I'm hoping the NFL and the NFL players, with what they're doing to try and improve our society and our culture as a whole, just lead us out of it and at the end of 2020, and I'm excited about it.
+1, Chris. Thanks for the call. Always love our chats. Congrats on that, with all of us together with NFL Films and Belichick and Bill, the NFL 100 all-time team winning a couple of Emmys. That was, again, I'll always bring it up to you because it really was a top 5 moment for me. So just wanted to say thanks. And congrats.
Very, very cool indeed. It's always a pleasure, Rich.
Right
Thanks
back
for
at
having me on.
Always. That's Cris Collinsworth. Pro Football Focus is, of course, one of his focuses as well. It's amazing. It's amazing. Helps make sense of a lot of things watching the NFL. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.